Yo, what's up, and welcome inside the opening line. Corey and Benny coming at you on a hump day, a wiggity Wednesday, you know what I'm saying? Hope you enjoyed your Taco Tuesday. Gonna talk some ADPs with the homies today as we really get ready for the final push. Look at some things that's been going on, some trends of the last 10 days. Benny, what's the deal with you?
Not much, man. I'm a little upset right now, Corey. I got to be honest. I spent a little bit of time last night updating and entering a couple tournaments for opening day for NFL, for DFS.
That's right.
The Texans play on Monday night, which means that Duke Johnson is not in the pool for the main slate.
Wow.
Yeah, so that $3,500 all-in Duke Johnson, don't do that. Don't do that.
No, because he'll be a donut, you know what I'm saying?
But I will say this. If you're looking to play cash games this week, on week one for NFL DFS, at least on DraftKings. I haven't looked on FanDuel yet. I'm more of a DraftKings guy, right? Jacoby Brissett at 4,400 is tough not to play. Because at 4,400, I mean, if he throws for like 225 and a touchdown, you basically got value out of him. If he has like a normal like 250, 275 and 2 kind of game, at 4,400, there's just so much value there in cash games, because then you can afford to go and take your, Christian McCaffrey's, Saquon Barkley's, and, you can get those guys into your lineups and you don't have to really reach for it. So 4,400 Jacoby Brissett is probably going to end up in my week one cash game lineup on DraftKings.
I think that makes sense. I was talking to people last night, and I think they're going to win the game. I'm going to put something on the money line. I like the rally around. The team rallies around each other. You know what I'm saying? I like that narrative right there. It might be silly, but I think at plus 270 is worth a shot.
Yeah, I mean, again, you're getting –
I'm not going to put the house on it, Benny. You know what I'm saying?
No, I wouldn't either. You should never be putting the house on a plus 270 underdog, but – a little bit of taste of it to get some money. I don't think that's a bad thing. I mean, you're getting paid almost 3-1 for the opportunity, so can't really complain about that. Yep.
So now the Brissett thing is interesting. I think we're going to find out a lot about Brissett in the first month of the season. So he can be a waiver wire gem. You know what I'm saying? We'll see how it plays up.
He's a guy that I already have put my bids in for. He's the guy that I have at the top of my list for my bids in the Scott Fish Bowl. I have a feeling that there are going to be people paying almost all of their fab, $70, $80, $100 for Jacoby Brissett and Scott Fish Bowl.
Yeah, I can see that, because obviously there's the rules in that league. A quarterback popping off the waiver wire late in the fall, in the summer, that's going to be a thing. So when you're looking at these last ADPs, trying to find some trends for certain reasons. Julio Jones has moved into the first round.
I mean, I always had him in the first round. To me, he's still the biggest upside receiver in football.
Yeah, no doubt. It's like, the board gets tighter as we get closer to kickoff. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
There's less people playing the games. There's less, strategy. It's kind of like, okay, now it's time to get serious. And we're starting to see it clump together. And Julio Jones goes right to where he's been at. Nick Chubb is also a big riser, Benny. Like I said, I think I was on with Vaccaro and those guys yesterday. I'm not – the Kareem Hunt thing doesn't bother me. This is a dude that shared a backfield with Todd Gurley. He also shared a backfield with Sony Michele. And he did it successfully. You know what I'm saying? If he has to share a backfield with Kareem Hunt, I think he'll do it successfully also. He's moving to the first round now. ADP in the last 10 days has really jumped for Nick Chubb and Benny. I'm on board. I already got one share of him. Unfortunately, I have it in one of those industry experts leagues. I don't have him in no league where I got some cash on him. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I don't think so. But I still got a shot to get it done this weekend. But I'm a big supporter of Chubb coming into the weekend, Benny.
Yeah, I actually have a bunch of shares of him. To me, the key with him has nothing to do with Kareem Hunt. It had to do with when they made the move for Duke Johnson. When they got rid of Duke Johnson, that opened up Nick Chubb for playing some third down work and being an every down back. I mean, remember, we're not going to see Kareem Hunt until November, December, right? Like, he's out for the first 8 games of the season. So you're not going to see him, at least the first half of the season. And even when he does come back, I don't see him overtaking Nick Chubb. If anything, he may be the change of pace kind of guy, but you're still going to see Nick Chubb be the main guy. So with Chubb now getting third down work on top of all the running work that he's getting, which he did a good job of last year, I think he deserves to be a guy that's, pushing his way into the end of the first round or the beginning of the second round. I mean, I took him the other day at – it was a 12-teamer. I had the 9th pick, so 15 maybe. So I think I got him on the way back at like 15 or 16, and I was pretty happy with him getting him there. I've seen him go as high as, like I said, the back end of the first round, and I don't think it's crazy. I'm looking for a big year out of him.
Benny, how many more? Do you have any more drafts left?
I mean, do I have any scheduled right now? No, but I'm probably going to wind up going on, draft.com and doing a bunch more best balls. Basically what I'll do is, like, if I can get the kids to bed and baseball is, going on and I'm just sitting here, I basically sit there with my computer and I'll just sign up for drafts and, drink a beer or two and watch the baseball games and bang out another 3 or 4 drafts. So my guess is I got another –
That's not all you're doing.
I mean, I'm gonna smoke a little bit too. Depends if the kids are asleep now, But I mean, I'll probably bang out another 8 to 10 drafts before we go here right now. And basically what I'm doing. This is a good time, Corey, to look at your exposures, right, and see. All right, who do I want? Who do I like that for whatever reason I didn't wind up with enough shares of, and who did I like early that maybe I don't like as much now? Like a T.Y. Hilton would be a good example. Like if you're 60%, somebody asked me this question on Twitter the other day. Oh, I'm 75% exposed to T.Y. Hilton. What do I do? I said, well, you do another 20 drafts, and then you're 5% exposed to him.
75% exposed to T.Y. Hilton or any one player. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's what you do. That's basically how you do it right there. Antonio Brown is kind of sliding towards the turn, and I think it's all the drama and foolishness with the helmet and stuff like that. But Benny, when he gets on the field, Benny, it's like all that goes out the window. I'm expecting another big 100-plus catch season.
Yeah, I mean, listen, this is the time of year where you got to start thinking about, who is a guy that people are sleeping on, right? Like, who is somebody who is better than where he's being drafted? And those are the kind of guys you need to go after and go get. And Antonio Brown is definitely one of the guys in that list. I mean, if you're just talking based on talent, there's no way he should drop out of the middle of the second round. But right now you're seeing him in the third round sometimes. I mean, you're getting value on a guy like that. So is there a little bit of risk to it? Yeah, there's a little bit of risk to it, but it's Antonio Brown. I mean, how many years have we seen this guy put up numbers? Why do we all of a sudden think he's going to suck,
Mr. 1-1, AB 84. Hey, whose ADP is kind of jumping all over the place the past 2 weeks or so, 2 to 3 weeks? It's Damian Williams. He had a dip when it was talk of, there's going to be an RBBC. Mm-hmm. Now, once again, as we push closer to kickoff, he's starting to come back into that back into that second round. I think he's a great option to pay up at one of the top 4 backs. I'm in on the Damian Williams train.
Yeah, I am too. Put it this way: if you can get Damian Williams in the third round, you jump on. If he's available in the third round of your draft, you jump all over that. To me, he belongs in the back end of the second round, along with a guy like Dalvin Cook. Those are the guys that are pretty close right there in that 15 to 20 range that I'm targeting and trying to get right there.
What do you think of Leonard Fournette, Benny? Last minute people this weekend looking for a potential RB2.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this before. Like, my beef with Fournette has nothing to do with his talent. It has everything to do with him staying healthy, right? So he's a guy that for daily fantasy, I'm excited about playing when he's healthy. But for season-long fantasy, I've kind of been avoiding him, figuring that at best I'm getting 10 games out of him. And I don't want to take a second-round pick that I'm only going to get 10 games out of. So, I mean, I've been drafting, to go back to the same names we were just talking about. Like, I've been drafting Dalvin Cook ahead of him. I've been drafting Damian Williams ahead of him. I still put him ahead of, Aaron Jones. Basically the question for me, Corey, is Kerryon Johnson versus Leonard Fournette.
Yeah, and that's kind of where the ADP lines up at right there. And I think I would take KJ at that spot. The tight ends are Benny. Kelce has stayed where he was going. Kittle and Ertz seem to both be dropping, with the drop on Ertz being the most significant one. We've discussed that plenty of times. I think both of us are out on Ertz this year. I like Dallas Goedert a lot. Where do you stand on Kittle? Because I feel as if Jimmy G's erraticness is throwing his ADP off, but I'm just not paying. If I'm paying up for a tight end, it's not going to be George Kittle. It's going to be Travis Kelce.
Yeah, I mean, I'm paying up for Kelce. I'd be willing to pay a first-round price for Kelce, and I have.
Yeah.
I already have done that before. Like back end of the first round, like pick like maybe 8 through 12 or something like that, where all the running backs you wanted are off the board and you don't want to start wide receiver. I've paid for Kelce. To me, Kittle at the earliest, I'm taking him as the third round. And I think that's about where he should be going. That's about where his ADP has him going. Ertz dropping beyond that is something that I've been avoiding. Like if Zach Ertz has another huge year like he had last year, it's probably going to hurt me because I don't have the exposure to him.
It will happen without me, Benny.
Yeah, I don't have the exposure to him there. But to me, Kittle's a first round. Kelce's a first round pick. Kittle is a third round pick. And then after that, I think you're better off kind of waiting. One thing I don't have enough exposure to right now that I'm going to kind of hop in on though, Corey, I kind of like Eric Ebron now that Jacoby Brissett is under center.
I agree with you.
All right, so I don't know if you've seen
why.
Yeah, well, a couple people have been putting some of the numbers out there on the board, and this is kind of the reason why I'm there. Jacoby Brissett, the last time he was a starting quarterback, has been somebody who's known to target his tight ends, right? So, like, the league average was something like 12 to 15% targets to tight end. Jacoby Brissett did it over 20% of the time. In the preseason this year when Brissett was in there, he was targeting tight ends again over 20% of the time versus like a 13% league average. So this is a guy who does feel comfortable throwing the ball to the tight end. At the same time, without Andrew Luck, you're starting to see guys like Jack Doyle and Eric Ebron kind of dropping a little bit. Now, believe me, I am 100% on team touchdown regression coming for Eric Ebron. I don't think he's going to wind up with 14 or whatever he had last year. 12, but he could still wind up with 8, which would still make him one of the top touchdown scoring tight ends in the league. You know, last year, 8 or 9 was around the number that guys like Kelce and Ertz and Kittle put up. So even if he has a little regression to 8 or 9, I mean, you're still talking about him as one of those guys. Plus, you're talking about a quarterback in Brissett who actually uses the tight end more than Andrew Luck did. And those guys had some pretty good numbers last year. So I definitely don't think it's a crazy idea to be looking at Ebron. I'm not looking to reach to get Eric Ebron, but the fact that he's falling makes him a lot more interesting to me right now.
Right outside that tier of O.J. Howard, Hunter Henry, O.J. Howard, Hunter Henry. Somebody just kept my memory. Evan Ingram. Some people have Jared Cook in that grouping. I do not. But then you have your boy Eric Ebron. I think he goes off the board before the likes of Vance McDonald's and Austin Hoopers and players like that. Yep. Another big ADP rise of the past 10 days or so, Benny, is Chris Carson. I'm starting to buy in too. I would rather do it as an RB3 flex. You know what I'm saying? RB, third running back that you can put in your flex spot. I think the workload is going to be there. I see all the good things that everybody see. Run first offense. Penny not really ready yet. Carson's gig. Russell Wilson, good football team. I can do it as a flex. I'm not happy about it, though, but I can see why. You know what I'm saying? It's going on.
I'm pretty happy about it as a flex. If I get him as my third running back, I'm happy. I have him as my third. Yeah, I mean, if I'm building – put it this way. If I'm building a wide receiver-heavy team and I get him – because he's been going around like ADP 40, 50. So you're talking probably like fourth round is where you're getting him.
Right now, the past 10 days, he's in at 38.
Yeah, so I mean, still, that's the beginning of the fourth round, right, in a 12-teamer. So that's really where I'm looking at. I'm like, if you start off with 2 wide receivers and another big-time running back, and then he's your second running back, I don't think that's a horrible way to start the season. Remember, Seattle ran the ball more than anybody else last year, and Carson is going to be the guy who's going to get most of the carries at this point. It looks like it's going to be like people are like, oh, it's a running back committee. But at worst case scenario, it's a 60-40 committee, and it actually looks more like it's going to be a 70-30 committee. As long as Carson's healthy, he's going to be the main guy there. And he had some really good games last year. I mean, this guy could really rack it up. The other big thing I like about it, Corey, is they're talking about him as more of a passing down threat this year too. So if he's going to start adding some catches into what he did last year with the running and the carries, you're going to get a big season out of Chris Carson here. And I think his ADP is a little bit too low.
All right, cool. And there you go. Benny's on. Benny's involved. I might, if I do another draft, I'll put him on my list. Robert Woods has dropped the past couple of days. I think that's because the Rams receivers are just, it's just whatever. You know what I'm saying? It's like you can't really pick one.
My biggest beef with the Rams receivers, and we've talked about this before, is that the fact that you have 3 good ones caps the upside of the other 2.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter which one of them you like is, like a T.Y. Hilton, for example. There is no real threat number 2 wide receiver on that team, right?
No.
Like the second best receiver after him are the tight end options. So you could see in a game where they're behind and they need to feed somebody, they're going to feed T.Y., and T.Y. could wind up with 12, 15 targets in those situations and put up a huge number. The thing about the Rams is nobody's ever going to get spoon-fed, right? Like everybody's going to get a piece, everybody's going to get a taste, but you're never going to see one of those guys get 15 targets in a game because it's going to be spread out 7, 8 targets for Kupp, 7, 8 targets for Wood, 5 or 6 targets down the field for Cooks. They're all going to have their opportunities, but nobody's going to have the massive opportunity. I prefer for fantasy taking team like Tyler Boyd is a good example. Without A.J. Green, there's really no secondary receiver on that team. So if there's in a situation where they got to throw, you got to think Tyler Boyd's going to end up 12, 15 targets because he's going to have to get fed because they don't have anybody else. You're never going to be in that situation with the Rams unless you get some injuries because there's too many other mouths that they can feed.
You never know who's going to go off. And, people can point to the relationship that Kupp has with Goff, but Kupp's coming off that ACL, so you got to be careful with that. ADP that is starting to move up right now in the past 10 days or so and starting to get tight and sink in, and I'm on board with it, Benny. Wouldn't be surprised, knock on wood, if when we talk on Monday, he's on my auction team that I'll be putting together on Friday, and that is one Mr. Sony Michele. I understand the knee concerns with the injuries and stuff like that, but when he's on the field and he's running, he does it well, and he scores touchdowns, Benny. And the bottom line of it, we talk about PPR, we talk about targets, we talk about receptions. Fantasy football is about touchdowns.
Yeah, I mean, in a standard league, this guy is an absolute beast. But even in a PPR or a half PPR kind of situation, the touchdown equity that you get from Sony Michele is something that you can't really ignore. I mean, this is a guy who I just remember a couple years ago with the Patriots. Remember LeGarrette Blount had that huge year with the Patriots? That's kind of the way I see Sony Michele with them here. It's like people are like, oh, yeah, well, he doesn't catch passes. They're going to go to James White. All right, that's fine. LeGarrette Blount didn't catch passes either and ended up with like 20 touchdowns on the year. The Patriots are a team that's in the red zone all the damn time, and they score a lot of touchdowns. If those are going to be going to Sony Michele, even a third of them go to Sony Michele, you're talking 12, 15 touchdowns on the year. I mean, that's going to put him up there in the top 10 for running backs for touchdowns scored. So, yeah, I think people are – early in draft season, people were real worried about that knee. It looks like he's going to be fine and he's going to be there to start. Maybe he has an injury during the season at some point. I wouldn't rule that out. But at the same point in time, you're getting enough of a discount on him. I mean, I've seen him go in the 4th, 5th round, Corey. Like 4th, 5th round for a guy on the Patriots who's going to score double-digit touchdowns if he stays healthy. I feel like people are sleeping on that.
And what it becomes is, Benny, it's like it's almost like I said, as we get closer to the lights, camera, and the action, it's like the stupid switch goes off in the, okay, let's get serious about it, comes on. DJ Moore ADP is in free fall, Benny.
I think the DJ Moore ADP is in free fall because the Curtis Samuel's ADP has been moving up a little bit.
There you go.
And I think that's the thing is I think a lot of people were going into the beginning of draft season saying, well, DJ Moore is going to be their number one and Curtis Samuel's more of a gimmick guy. But Curtis Samuel seems to have taken over the wide receiver spot and, basically he's been showing out in preseason. I mean, I read RotoWire all the time, right? Like you go to RotoWire. If you're a serious fantasy football player, you should have the RotoWire player notes section up as one of the tabs on your computer at all times.
Yeah.
When you're bored and you got 15 minutes, or I have it on my phone too. So like, you go take a dump and you just flip through and you say, all right, let's see what's going on. Almost at least once a week, you're hearing something good coming out of camp about how great Curtis Samuels looks. So I think that is really the big deal. Is like, I think Curtis Samuels moving up has hurt DJ Moore because now people aren't looking at DJ Moore as he's going to be the 80 to 100 target kind of guy.
Why is Kenny Golladay ADP coming down?
Who's ADP?
Kenny Golladay.
I think Kenny Galladay's ADP just started out too high because to me, I think that
I would take Kenny Golladay over Chris Godwin. I don't know. This Godwin thing has been bothering me, Benny. I think I talk about this about every day. He's ahead of T.Y. Hilton now, Chris Godwin.
That's again. It's just crazy. Again, you're buying all the risk with him. Like if he doesn't have, I know everybody thinks he's going to have a big year, and I don't doubt that, but he needs to have a huge year. Like that's the thing. It's where you're drafting him now. He has to go off. Like he has to be an all-pro.
He has to go off like my niece in the mornings. Golladay at this current ADP, he don't have to go off. You know what I'm saying?
So you said he's dropping. Where did he drop to? Like what's his current ADP?
47.
Oh yeah, he has dropped a little bit. Let me ask you this though. What's the ADP of Marvin Jones right now? Is he still in the 80s?
I want to see too. That's what
because this has been my thing with Golladay. Like to me, I think Golladay is Kenny Golladay is slightly better than Marvin Jones. But you had been getting Marvin Jones at ADP like 70, 80, whereas you've been paying ADP 30, 40 for Golladay. So if I'm going to take two guys that I think are pretty close to each other, if there's a 4-round difference in where I need to draft them, I will gladly take the 1B to the 1A.
Jones is dropped too to 93.
That's what I'm saying. If you can get – and so 93, you're talking 8th round, right? Like 9 or 7 times 12 is 84, 96. So you're talking like, 7th, 8th round you can get Marvin Jones, whereas you need to go 3rd or 4th round for Kenny Golladay. Do you really think Kenny Golladay is going to be that much better than Marvin Jones this year?
You can start Golladay. You can't start Jones. Would you agree with that?
No, I think you could start them both.
Okay, interesting.
I prefer Golladay. Like if we're in an auction draft and both guys are going for the exact same price, I want Kenny Golladay.
Yeah.
But in a snake draft situation where it's a 4-round difference, again, in round 4, where Galladay's going around 45 or whatever right there, I could get guys like Chris Carson. I can get guys like Duke Johnson. You probably still have like some Julian Edelman or Thielen shares available around there. At ADP 80 or 90, you're talking Darius Geis as a running back. You're talking, maybe David Montgomery as a running back. You're talking maybe D.D. Westbrook as a wide receiver. There's a big difference between those guys and the guys that you can get instead of Golladay. You know what I mean? So, again, if you think Golladay is going to be that much better than Marvin Jones, then I think going after him in the 4th or 5th round is fine. I don't think there's that much of a difference between the two. And I'd rather take the 1B version a couple rounds later.
I dig it. You make some excellent point, Benny. I think my thing with Golladay is my thing with Jones is like a wide receiver version of Lamar Miller to me, and I think it could be biased on my behalf right there with Marvin Jones because I just look at him and I'm just like, if you put somebody on him, you can take him out the game. But then again, whatever, people like him, and he's probably dropping because Emmanuel Sanders and Sterling Shepard are climbing up the board along with your man Curtis Samuel. I love Sterling Shepard. Go ahead.
Let's also talk about this with the Detroit wide receivers before we move on here. Last year, the one thing we noticed about that Detroit offense is that they decided they didn't want to be as pass heavy as they were. They traded Golden Tate away and got rid of him. And then at the end of the season, they were really kind of feeding Kerryon Johnson, which is why everybody's so high on Kerryon Johnson this year. So I don't think it's crazy to see those guys dropping. Even Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford is one of those guys who I'm shocked is still available really, really late in drafts. Like even in like 2 QB drafts, this is a guy going like
undrafted.
Yeah, like QB,
not 2 QB, but yeah.
Like QB 25, like beyond there, So you're talking like the bottom quarter of quarterbacks in the league. And this is a guy who used to consistently throw up 4,000, 5,000 yards a year with, 25, 30 touchdowns. Like, it's not like he's a scrub. Like, we're not talking about Joe Flacco here. We're talking about Matt Stafford. You know what I mean?
It's different when you don't have Calvin Johnson to throw to, but I get what your point.
If they're going to be more run heavy, then that's got to affect all those wide receivers too. So I understand why everybody, with the exception of Kerryon Johnson, who's moving up, all the passing game for Detroit is kind of moving down. So just keep that in mind because I think that has a lot to do with the steam that we're seeing in a negative direction on those guys.
Yeah, no doubt. I would agree with you on that one. Just that whole situation, and people get that's going to be a running thing. Where are we at? Your boy, your boy is losing a little bit of steam. Robbie Anderson, I think Jamison Crowder is starting to pull up. Mm-hmm. You know what? I was talking with our buddy Vaccaro yesterday, and I said, Chris, who's the number 2 quarterback on your board? And he is the only person that I've said that has given me this name right here, Benny. Aaron Rodgers. And I was like, really? And he was like, yep, Aaron Rodgers. And I'm like, it was a lot of negative. Like, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Deshaun Watson goes there. Baker Mayfield go there. Andrew Luck was going there. You know what I'm saying? Nobody is really taking Aaron Rodgers. But is that the right call?
I mean, listen, when we first talked about quarterbacks, you were shocked at how high I had Aaron Rodgers for the same reason. I mean, the thing about Aaron Rodgers is when Aaron Rodgers is healthy, Aaron Rodgers is going to sling it. And if he's going to sling it, he's a guy that we've seen have 3-4 touchdown games. He's a guy that could throw for 225 yards and end up with 4 touchdowns. Like, we've seen him put up those kind of games, just be super efficient. He's got great weapons. I mean, you and I both love the weapons that he has. Devontae Adams is a stud wide receiver. Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Geronimo Allison are 2 guys that we both really like. They have Aaron Jones, who's supposed to be involved more in the passing game this year with Ty Montgomery gone and all. I mean, it doesn't seem crazy that, Aaron Rodgers is going to have another big year. The biggest thing that kills Aaron Rodgers, other than the fact that he's a pussy and he can't chug a beer, is the fact that
he got something to do with it, Vinny.
Yeah, well, I mean, listen, Corey, you and I both know there's a little something to go along with that. Like, if you can't chug a beer, there's a little bit of your man card that guys are going to question here a little bit. But that's the other thing about Aaron Rodgers, too. Is like Aaron Rodgers does get hurt a lot. Maybe it's because of the way he plays and he rolls out a lot and he's throwing on the run all the time. You talk about, how much strain it puts on the shoulder when you're throwing the ball cross field, which is something that he does because he's got a big arm. Aaron Rodgers needs to stay healthy. If Aaron Rodgers stays healthy, though, this is a guy who, his floor is usually like 250 and 2. So his upside, 350, 400 yards with multiple touchdowns in games that they really need him. Worst case scenario floor of 250 and 2 is pretty damn good. You're talking 20 fantasy points right there on a weekly basis from the guy. I don't think it's crazy to have Aaron Rodgers up there. Again, I'm not somebody who usually reaches up for quarterbacks, so I probably will end up with very few shares of any of those guys. But I don't think it's crazy to have him as the number 2. At least we've seen him do what we're hoping Baker Mayfield can do this year and what we're hoping Deshaun Watson can stay healthy and end up with. We've seen Aaron Rodgers put up those kind of numbers already.
No doubt. One thing about, I always say fantasy owners are romantic. And you look at Aaron Rodgers and like you said, he's a dick. You know what I'm saying? His whole family hates him. You know what I'm saying? He has these, now he's dating Danica Patrick, and you're like, no, he's not. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
dude, that's the weirdest pairing too. That is like that just makes no sense to me whatsoever. Yeah.
It really is.
His ex-girlfriend was so much hotter. The actress, what's her name? Olivia Munn.
Yeah, she was like, dude is an asshole. Why am I being in this thing with him? You know what I'm saying? With Danica Patrick, I can just see the 2 of them just like, you know what I'm saying? Like, oh, okay. Like, I don't know. Son, it's a weird pairing, like you said.
Mm.
But, so much.
I bet you she could chug a beer. She's a NASCAR driver.
Exactly. You know what I'm saying? It's just so much negativity around him. But you know what? When it does come to the production on the field, if he's healthy, he is still Aaron Rodgers, and he can get it done. Benny, I hate to say it this way because I wish nothing but the best for the kid, but I'm not going to have any piece of Josh Gordon, and I'm not going to have any piece of Josh Gordon because I really don't know if Josh Gordon can stay clean for the next 4 months.
I said this when the announcement was made. The time to draft Josh Gordon was a month ago when you were getting him in round 12, round 13, round 14. Like when he was an afterthought guy that somebody drafted and you were like, yeah, whatever, Josh Gordon. I have a couple shares of him that I got late in drafts where the risk and the reward was good. At that point, you're risking taking some third wide receiver who may not get on the field for whatever team you were going to draft him for anyway. Or you're risking taking a guy like Josh Gordon who could end up being the number 1 receiver for a good quarterback in Tom Brady if he got reinstated. Now that he got reinstated, though, his ADP jumped from the 150s, 160s to I saw him go as high as the 4th round this weekend in one of the best balls that I did. So if you're putting him as a top 50 player right now, again, you're buying all the risk right now. Listen, he got reinstated, but it's still not like the guy's been practicing and is out there and is ready to go. Like, It might take him a couple weeks to get going there. And then we've seen him have relapses before, so it's not like, you can guarantee he's going to play the entire year. So like I said, if you got Josh Gordon a month ago where you were drafting him around 12, 13, 14, 15, pick ADP 150-ish or something like that, you should be happy about it. If you have to go get him at pick 50, pick 60 this week in order to get your exposure to Josh Gordon, I'm on the same boat as you. I'm probably not going to be reaching up and grabbing him at that point.
Let me ask you a couple of just for people that's going to be drafting this weekend. Cat's going to be on the clock. Sterling Shepard or Corey Davis? And you're a Corey Davis guy. I'm not.
Yeah, I still prefer Corey Davis, but I actually have a lot of exposure to both of those guys, so I don't want to make it sound like I like one and I don't like the other.
Okay.
As of a couple of weeks ago, you were able to get Sterling Shepard like a round or two later than Corey Davis.
So
right now,
Sterling Shepard has gone up. I'm sure the ADP has moved up because his name is in green. I just can't find it right now. No, actually, he's had a little dip over the last couple of days. Interesting.
Where's the ADP on Shepard? Because he was around 100.
Sterling Shepard. Okay, so then you're looking at about 100. The last week he's at last 10 days he's at 84.
All right, so he's moved up about a round or so. And Corey Davis has been around 80 or 92, right? So the two of them are pretty much in the same range right now, or is Davis?
Right now, Corey Davis is 82.
Yeah, so like I said, the two of them are about the same range. I still prefer Corey Davis, but like I said, I have exposure to both of those guys. I was actually drafting those guys in back-to-back rounds a lot of time, with Shepard being around ADP 100 and Corey Davis being around the 80s. So I have exposure to both. I'm not going to say I like one more. I like one and don't like the other, but I do like Corey Davis more.
Emmanuel Sanders or the second wide receiver on the Packers, whoever you think that second Packer wide receiver is.
I have more Geronimo Allison than Emmanuel Sanders.
Okay, and
to me, my number two Packer wide receiver is Geronimo Allison. I'm not buying the Marquez Valdez-Scantling love that a lot of people have.
Yeah, I agree. I was big Allison. I do have some shares of Scantling, but I'm a ride with Allison. I don't have nothing against Scantling. Allison is just my guy.
Mm-hmm.
I do have some Scantling sprinkled in. Is I would say this with that combination right there. The Packers' second wide receiver has a better chance of staying on the field and giving me 16 than Emmanuel Sanders, and I know his rehab to get back. Because listen, it looked like for sure he was going to make the PUP list. He's ready to go.
Also, I'm going to take the number two guy that Aaron Rodgers is throwing the ball to over the number one guy. And I don't even know if he's the number one guy, but probably the number one guy that Joe Flacco is throwing the ball to. So
no doubt.
That's a big difference there.
100% on that one. Before we get up out of here, Benny, I forgot there was one more play I wanted to ask you about before we got up out of here. And it skips my mind right now. You know what I'm saying? While I think about that, I know what I wanted to ask you. It wasn't regarding the player. I think you need to have a Chiefs person on any team that you're seriously trying to win a championship on. I think it needs to be a member of the Kansas City Chiefs on that team, Benny. Who is your guy according to ADP and stuff like that? Who is the player from the Chiefs? If you could have one at their current ADP, who would it be?
Probably Damian Williams.
I would agree with you 100%. Damian Williams. Don't get me wrong. I like Ertz. I mean, I love Kelce. I love Mahomes and Tyreek Hill. But I think Williams is the guy to go with.
The way I'm looking at it is Kelce. If you want Travis Kelce, you pretty much have to invest the first round pick.
Yep.
So ADP wise, you're not getting much of a deal. I think he's worth it. Like I have some shares of him. I've done it myself, invested the first round pick, but it's not like you're getting a deal on him, right? Tyreek Hill, who is moved up to basically the second round at this point in time, you're not getting a deal on.
Nope.
Pat Mahomes is the first quarterback off the board, and he's usually gone by he doesn't make it to the fourth round. So usually somewhere in the third round, somebody's going up and reaching for him.
In the NFFC draft, the NFFC gives 6 points for the passing touchdown. He won't make it out the second round.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, when you talk about the best deal at ADP, which of those guys do you want? Damian Williams being at the end of the second, beginning of the third round. Damian Williams could theoretically be the fourth Chief drafted. I've been in drafts where he's the fourth Chief off the board after Kelce, Hill, and Mahomes have already gone. So to me, that's the best value there. I mean, I know Sammy Watkins is back there and some people like him.
I trust him.
I'm the same way. Like I don't really trust him, So to me, Damian Williams is offering the best value. But I kind of agree with you. If you don't have at least one guy on the Chiefs, you're probably doing it wrong, especially with the way this team was putting points up last year.
You're fighting an uphill battle. I give you that. Benny, before we get out of here, you have any baseball plays for the day? I had a parlay last night and it didn't go well.
Yeah, so let's see if we can get you back on the good side, right? Like the Detroit Tigers absolutely suck right now. Aaron Cervelli, the young kid for the Cleveland Indians, is pitching. Minus 190 on him, so it's not the greatest value, but I really do like the Cleveland Indians, and I think they're going to win.
Okay.
The other thing I like a lot lately, for some reason, the Oakland Athletic Bats have woken up, and they're putting up just double-digit run totals every day. They have a good matchup against Jake Junis, who's a guy that I'm not really a big fan of there, and they're like at a minus 160. So my only bet so far today for baseball, and it'll probably be the only one I put in right now, I'm parlaying the Cleveland Indians at minus 190 with the Oakland Athletics at minus 159. You put those two together in a parlay, it's paying plus 150. So throw $100 on it, get 250 back on it at the end, and then you got some money to play around with this weekend. So that's the way I'm going about it tonight. Cleveland, Oakland, money line parlay for plus 150.
I'll be telling you on that one right there. I'll let you know that. Because I think it's a little bit of day baseball today, but I probably won't get involved early.
There's two games. One of them is the Yankees against former Yankee farmhand Justice Sheffield. He's been getting lit up in his first two starts in the major league. So the Yankees are a good bet here today, too. James Paxton on the mound against his former team in the Seattle Mariners. I think those two might have even been involved in a trade for each other.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, but minus 230 is not really the greatest number in the world on the Yankees, but I do expect the Yankees to win, which is nice for me as a Yankees fan. I can see that happen.
All right, there you go, Benny. You got a big piece of chicken. I'm good for the day.
Yeah, I'm going to give my big piece of chicken. I'm trying to remember right now who the hell it was, but it was the pitcher for the Cleveland Indians yesterday. Damn it, who the hell pitched for the Indians yesterday? Whoever pitched for the Indians yesterday was one of their young kids. Went out and threw an absolute gem at like 5% ownership for me. People, for some reason, were staying away from him. Again, same reason why I'm betting on him today. They played the Detroit Tigers. The Detroit Tigers absolutely suck. Oh, Adam Plutko. Adam Plutko gets my big piece of chicken today because he put up a monster game for me at 5% ownership yesterday. Helped me cash. I had him in cash, too. Helped me cash my cash games and also cash in the GPPs at 6,500, putting up like 28 fantasy points, I think. So, big piece of chicken, Adam Plutko from the Cleveland Indians.
All right, there you go right there for my main man, Benny. It's Corey Parson, Fantasy Executive, to open the line. We are out.